Unclaimed dividend stands at 158.44 billion naira. The Central Bank of Nigeria adds maize importation to 41 banned items list. Domestic flights resume in Nigeria as part of protocols for the reopening of the economy. This is Business Express on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Leah Katung Baba Tunde. Domestic flights have resumed in Nigeria as the country takes steps towards easing restrictive measures that were put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19. Reopening airports is considered one of the most important measures taken by government to improve the domestic economy that has been badly hit.
Which they will all open, we'll make sure that they are ready before we open. Anyone that is not ready, we are not in a hurry to risk people's lives. We'll keep it closed until we are safe to open, then we open.
Avoid having crowds and making sure that the airlines depart promptly and the operations are efficient and staggered. Because if we have too much congestion in the airports, it will make it difficult for the rules to be followed.
While no date has been set yet for international flights to return, the hope is that domestic air travel will help bring life somewhat back to normal. Now we're going to Lagos to join our guest for today. He is Olumide Ohuayo, and we shall be looking at issues around domestic flights. He is also an aviation analyst and public affairs officer of Aviation Roundtable Initiative and Safety. You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Olumide. Now the skies are open, the flights are back with safety protocols in place. What will be your take on the whole resumption and the protocols involved?
Well, let me focus on the business aspects since we're on the business program. What we are looking at now is that the airports have gradually opened, and by tomorrow, almost all the airports will be open for operations. Only those who have not met up to some of the guidelines are stipulated by the NCAA, FAN, and the World Health Organization's health guidelines. For others, they'll be up. And for the industry, it is not while we are all away the pallets from the government to cushion the effect of COVID. What can turn the industry around, and the airlines in particular, is the traffic. And traffic here means as we have more passengers coming on board and flying, and then when most schedules are increased. So we have looked. The industry analysts knows that we cannot get the pre-COVID traffic level until about late 2021. So what we are just targeting is have about 40% before the end of the year, and then towards the early part of next year, starting at 50 to 60%, and by the end of next year, you should be back to the 100% that was before the COVID crisis. For the international route and the long haul route, that might not be. We might not have the food. We might not be able to restore traffic on that until about 2023.
How do you see this affecting the inflationary trend?
Well, you see, as of today, the tickets have shut up. We are looking at having the minimum fare now is about 50,000 naira, between 45 to 50. Before the COVID crisis, we are having about 22, 23, 24, depending on when you make your purchase. And the new fare, guys, is not unexpected. Consider the airport taxes are also being increased. The guidelines put in place as it's costing the airlines and the operators money. So you expect them to pass this extra cost on to passengers, and this cost involves the sanitizers and all other disinfectants and equipment, PPE and all that is bought. Then trainings and all other certifications that are needed, which the airlines had to go through during this period of being on ground, and all this are added to their cost, and ultimately it has been passed on to traffic. Again, they're on board now. The last row of seats are left free for isolation purposes in case we have people's passengers there. And under the new protocols, and because of the fear of the pandemic, we do not have enough bookings. So you expect the airlines won't be able to do that. The price is reasonable, really, when you compare that to other modes of transport. Almost every mode of transport, the cost of travel has also jacked up.
So there's also this debate on the cost, which you have highlighted as some of those points, the cost of flying. While authorities on one hand say airfare remains the same, the airlines seem not to be on the same page with the authorities. Now, what will be your position on this matter, considering the length of time the airspace was closed, and of course it's not fully open to the foreign airlines? The domestic airlines are yet to be fully operational. What will be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sincerely, I join others in having issues with the authorities discussing fares. Fares is not within the purview of the authorities, but it's within the purview of the airlines. Same as catering on board aircraft. These are marketing tools that are strictly left with the airlines to determine and see how they can get their passengers back. So each airline should be allowed independently to determine what it can afford, what it can serve, and the kind of services get offered to their customers, and how they can endear customers to return to flights. But I think the most important thing for the authorities is to actually provide the enabling environment, ensure the guidelines of safety and health protocols are maintained, sustained, and also sustained, that we have safe operations. But for that of fares, that will remain with the airline, and like it has happened on the local route, it's also going to happen on the international route. Now the airport tax for the international route has moved from $50 to $100. That's coupled with other expenses of the foreign airlines too. Yes, but at any time they're invited back, they also would have to increase fare. Airlines don't really enjoy increasing fares unjustifiably. When they are forced to do it, then they will also need to do it. Remember, if you try to go below the economic baseline of operation, you might probably creep into safety. And once you creep into safety, that becomes too dangerous for the industry. So the economic lines and are always there, and definitely must always be above safety and to protect safety.
To strike a balance now, the authorities on one hand, the airliners and the operators and every other thing around there on one hand, and of course there's the passenger, also the customer to it. How do you see us striking a balance?
But you should just allow the market. The market will handle that. You want to see, we are sure, but we don't have just one airline. We have numerous airlines in the country. We have about 6 or 7 of them now that are operating with different aircraft sites. So, and some are just even applying to join the fray. So with that, with competition, you are giving different options to fly. Then again, for the passengers, the role they can play is if they begin to adhere to those things, like one of those things is to book and pay online. If you book and pay online, if you plan your travel, you're going to get a good fare. And then once you begin to plan, once you book online, you have moved everything away from direct services, which COVID has helped us now to engrave in in our operations, you are reducing the cost of operations for the airlines. And once you reduce cost of operations, then also the cost of ticket will go down. Though other factors are also involved. Like I said, the airport services charge has gone up, and the airlines have to maintain and do some work considering the long term the aircraft and crew have been on ground. All that are going to push the initial cost up. But we also it's like I said, the palliative is not well, it's not an extra favor. It's been given to other airlines in our climes and in countries affected by the COVID. But in the industry, we're still waiting that from the authorities, which is one of the reasons and also help bring down the cost because they all need cash now to restore full operations. And if they have that cash to push services, then what will be left is how to get the traffic back. And once you have the traffic back,
Now, still looking at the level of activities there is an ongoing implementation of aviation roadmap that is expected to generate about 300,000 jobs in the sector, especially when concession of the 4 designated airports have been completed. Now, can you share what you think about this initiative in the light of COVID-19?
Well, the initiative has been there now since the government came in about five years ago. This included the construction of the 4th international airport, having a national carrier, having the organization that would have an aviation-based program, a maintenance repair organization, and an aviation leasing companies. These are all part of the roadmap of the Honorable Minister as agreed with the Mr. President. Unfortunately, with the COVID, we can't hide. Most of this will slow down now because at the moment the investment will be difficult. You might not see people bringing out money, knowing that the traffic and the market has not really peaked. So probably they might have to push some of those things till about next year. But for the aviation leasing company, I think this is the best time for that one to start off because you have so many aircraft that are being parked by various airlines and those who are having financial difficulties. We can get aircraft really cheap at this point in time.
This last one, I want to take this last one before I let you go. How would you describe the activities of the handling companies with the gradual opening of the airspace? Do you think they fall into the category of those businesses within the airspace that are perhaps underperforming? Let me use, if I can use that language.
Well, I'm not in a hurry to go, so I'm ready to take more questions from you. But for the ground handling companies, they performed creditably well during this period. They're almost the first arm of the aviation industry that crossed the 90% mark, and they even got 100%. So they were in principle that during the COVID period, they were not really sitting on their hours. They were actually making so much training, and also you remember they were working all through. They were handling the evacuation flights, cargo, and essential. They were bringing in critical medical material. So the ground handling companies were on ground, and that was why they could easily and quickly go through all the boxes of the guidelines as stipulated by the regulatory authorities, and they were forced to hit the ground running and were ready to move. And as of today, they're there. Our major problem is we just have 2 of them, and we think that's becoming the duopoly is becoming monopolistic in Abu and in cost. So we're looking at maybe getting a 3rd one to join the team and let us have some good prices.
Olumide Ohuayo, thank you for joining us on Business Express this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So let's move on. The total value of unclaimed dividend in the Nigerian capital market closed 2019 at 158.44 billion naira, and over 100 billion naira of the amount comes from unclaimed shares. The development reveals that the figure has been on the increase despite the introduction of e-dividend payment platforms by the SEC in 2015 from about 100 billion naira in 2017. It closed 2018 more than 120 billion naira. The Securities and Exchange Commission says dividends is company's earnings decided and managed by the company's board of directors and paid to a class of its shareholders. The earnings, however, are classified unclaimed when a shareholder fails to claim an already paid dividend after 6 months. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has directed all authorized dealers to immediately discontinue the processing of Forms M for maize or corn importation into the country. The Apex Bank, in a directive signed by its Director, Trade and Exchange Department, noted 4 main reasons for the action: to increase local production, stimulate a rapid economic recovery, safeguard rural livelihoods, and increase jobs. In line with these developments, all the authorized dealers have been told to return all the Forms M they have already registered for the purpose of importing maize on or before Wednesday, July 15, 2020. Now, gold slipped on Tuesday to trade below the key $1,800 level due to a stronger dollar, though concerns over surging coronavirus cases around the world and Sino-US tensions put a floor on the bullion prices. Nations are still trying to curtail the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, which has not left any economy out of its grip. Experts say policymakers in Africa are now absorbing lessons from the experiences of other countries to avoid costly policy mistakes. To this end, suggestions are that in order to inoculate their countries from dire crisis, African countries, especially key commodity exporters, should resort to effective management of natural resources.
In the COVID pandemic, I see countless opportunities, that we can explore, because a lot of the requirements, to maybe return the global economy back into shape, it will be predicated on organic products that will be coming, from places like Africa. Agriculture, agro-allied services is a very, very major way to go. Okay, the mining industry is another very major way to.
Minister of State Petroleum Resources Timper Silva says Nigeria will raise its compliance with OPEC Plus oil cuts to 100% and will compensate for its overproduction in May and June during the period of July to September. The minister, in a phone call with his Saudi counterpart, discussed the global oil markets, improvements in oil demands, and the progress made towards the full implementation of the OPEC Plus Pact. Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, who heads the OPEC Plus panel, known as the Joint OPEC Non-OPEC Ministerial Monitoring Committee, JMMC, which monitors adherence to the cuts, has emphasized the importance for all OPEC Plus countries to meet their agreed output targets under the pact to accelerate oil market rebalancing. Okay, let's take a quick look at the currency market. The Association of Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria has urged the federal government to suspend all increases in taxation and tariffs until the economy recovers from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The association said this in its quarterly economic review report for the second quarter of the year, while commending the recent decision to suspend the proposed hike in electricity tariff. APCON says government should, as a major policy during this COVID-19 recovery period, suspend any imposition or increase in taxation. Now over to the stock market, where trading has resumed this morning. The Nigerian Stock Exchange on Monday took off on a weak start as investors waited for the president's signing of the revised 2020 budget, as well as the medium-term expenditure framework to permeate. Investors lost 55.17 billion naira after the session. The NSE All-Share Index recorded a decline of 0.44% to close at 24,200.6 basis points. The opening figures this morning. Market capitalization dropped to 12.6 trillion naira, below the 13 trillion naira psychological mark. Investors exchanged 231.2 million shares in 3,950 deals worth 2.1 billion naira. Transactions in the shares of Sterling Bank, FCMB and Fidelity Bank topped activity charts. Asia-Pacific stocks dip as investors await China's June trade data. Singapore's economy slumped in second quarter. Over now to Boston Abel for a look at the global capital market.
Stocks in Asia fell in Tuesday morning trade as China's yuan-denominated trade data for June was released. Shanghai Composite down 0.72%, Nikkei slipped 0.87%, and Hang Seng Index also dropped 1.1%. U.S. stock futures moved higher in overnight trading and pointed to gains at the open on Tuesday as investors eye earnings report from some of the nation's largest banks. Dow futures rose 50 points. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 futures rose 0.15% and 0.4%. European stocks are expected to open lower Tuesday as a spike in coronavirus cases starts to weigh on global market sentiment. It was a positive start for African stocks, with Ghana's GSE Composite, South Africa's GSE Africa Top 40, Tunisia's Tunidex, Nairobi's All-Share, and Namibia's overall index posting gains.
Thank you, Boss Abel, and this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget, you can access these in all previous episodes on YouTube, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. The hashtag is BizX. We value your feedback. Do join us again Wednesday for another package as we continue the fight against COVID-19. Remember to keep social distance, obey all safety protocols, and always wash your hands with soap on the running water frequently. I am Liakatung Baba today. Good morning.